right here today, this morning, right here on another episode of Feel Good Show. And if you don't believe me, just wait 1 second and you'll understand why. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is the man, the myth, the legend. He is here. T-Boz, how you feeling, bro?
Here comes Vince Lombardi.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I can't believe we don't get paid for this. Here comes. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope I get to the show now. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for spending Friday Eve with us, our spectacular Father's Day show. And that's why I wanted to say Vince Lombardi. Very quickly before we start, here's some dad shout-outs. WAPJ, great show on Sunday mornings, the Pro Football Show with Kay Williamson. And Jock is on there. It's from 9 to 11. If you like sports, even though it says football, they do everything, right, Jock? And then my buddy on Monday afternoons from 1 until 2, Litchfield County Sports. He does everything from local to regional to national. Got a couple of guys on. It almost sounds like Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford back in the day, you know, guys talking. So it's the dad show today, so I'm going to promote those two shows here on WAPJ. We have a big shoe, as Ed Sullivan used to say, and most of you in the audience know. Come on in. George, can you help me today? Because I'm going to get started. Seating everyone. Okay, thank you. All right, so we are going to go right over to Stan the Coffee Man, boys and girls, because we got a lot of ground to cover. 18 contributors for the Father's Day show. So let's go right over to Stan the Coffee Man. Stan, what do we have in the... Oh, you got a dad hat on. Nice. In the big pot today. Oh, Big Guy Robusto Brew. Oh, perfect for dad. And what's all this on the table? Buttered rolls and crumb buns. Oh, you can't get any more dad than buttered rolls, right? You know, the old buttered roll and a coffee and the crumb buns. And then we have all the stuff for the ladies, yogurt, fruit, and all of that. And who's sponsoring the dessert table, the refreshment table, whatever you want to call it? Oh, it's the new place in town. Oh, yeah. What do you get? Oh, yeah. Big Shots Sports Bar. And Jock and I are going to be there tonight for Culture for a Cause. Jock's thing that he is very involved with, and it's his thing, so we'll be there. So the Big Shots Sports Bar is sponsoring this. I mean, you can't get any more dad than this, Jock. We got buttered rolls. We got sports shows on WAPJ. We got Big Shots Sports Bar. I mean, this place is fully dadded up. There is no format today because we're just going to wing this, and everyone contributed. Everyone did exactly what I asked them to do for the assignment. We're going to get into those. First, a couple of funny things by some comedians. Conan O'Brien says, you can buy your kid a goldfish to teach him responsibility, and that'll last for about 24, 36 hours. So those of you dads who have tried that. Steve Martin says, a dad keeps pictures in his wallet where he used to have money. So there you go. And my buddy Ray Romano says, having children is like living in a frat house. He says, you got no sleeping, things are broken, and people are constantly throwing up. So thank you, Ray Romano, a great TV dad. And then Charles Wadsworth says, just when you get to the age when you realize that your father was intelligent, you have a teenage son telling you that everything you do is wrong. And here's the one that made me laugh. It's from my good buddy Jerry Lewis, and he says, when he was a kid, he said to his father, Daddy, can you take me to the zoo? And his father turned to him and said, if the zoo is willing to come and get you, they can take you. So there's some funny start-offs for Father's Day, and I hope some of you had a chuckle like I did with those. Actually, for me, they brought me to my father, and they said to my father after I was born, we did everything we could. So anyway, there you go. So a little fun. Like I said, we've had some very deep topics over the last couple of months, so we're having fun. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verse 2, and it says, the Holy Spirit said, set apart from me Barnabas and Saul for the works for which I have called them. Boom. So set apart. I think it's so Father Day-ish, right? Our fathers are set apart. Fathers is a vocation. And I mentioned one other time, Jim's going to talk about his father a little bit. masons, they set a stone in and it doesn't move. So the Holy Spirit says, set apart from me Saul, which became Paul, and Barnabas. So your fathers are set apart, right? They've been picked by God to be your fathers. Maybe some of you had a grandfather raise you instead, that kind of thing. We understand that. But set apart from me for the work that they have been called to do. It's not just something that accidentally falls out of the sky. Kings, chapter 18, verse 39. And the Israelites were worshiping the god Baal under Queen Jezebel. That's a real queen. And those of you know I've been kind of using that word a little bit. Queen Jezebel said, you must worship the god of Baal. And so the Israelites start doing this, and God is hurt. But even in that, he doesn't break this covenant, and he meets them right where they falter. With what? Not condemnation, but love and understanding. And isn't that appropriate for today for our Father's Day show? Because all of us is messed up, right? We cracked up the car. We didn't pay a credit card bill when we were 20. We did something wrong, came home late, drove over the sprinkler system, right? We've done that. And we might have been punished or reprimanded, but in the end, we knew that our fathers loved us. And so they duplicated just what our Heavenly Father has done. So let's get right into all the classmates that participated. Yeah, there's room down in front, man. Just keep bringing them in, George. All right, we're going to start with daughter Emily, my elder daughter, and she says what her father taught her, which would be me, what her father taught her is that to never give up. And he also taught her to laugh. There's always a reason to laugh, no matter what the circumstances are. 9 years ago, we didn't have a reason to laugh. And I have a very special show next week. I hope Jock is going to be in. We'll talk about it later. I'd like all of you to come in next Thursday. We didn't have a lot to laugh about 9 years ago. There really wasn't much to laugh about in February of this year either. But my daughter sees a father against all odds that never gives up. And she's not a quitter, just like everybody in this room. So I thank you for that, elder daughter Emily. And she also said, my father taught me on a lighter note how to use tacky wax to hide extension cords when you have Christmas decorations so you don't see wires running all over the house. That's another story for another show, but tacky wax is a great thing. Scott out in Glastonbury says his father taught him to always honor, what a great word, honor the family in words and deeds, okay? So honor the family, right? Not just exist with the family, honor the family. So the family comes first. You're a father. If you say something and you do something, you're embellishing the family. You're making the family better. So a great thought there from Scott, a new listener out in Glastonbury. Jeannie from Litchfield says her father, he said, he taught me many down-to-earth things you use every day. Too much to list, she says. But her regret, I like that word regret, is that I never told him how proud I was of him that he was in the Battle of Normandy. Wow. What I like about Jeannie's statement, it may sound like a negative, I'll make it a positive. She's honest with herself. She's honest. And she's a better person for it. She regrets never having told her father how proud she was of him being in Normandy. And she has all of his medals and things from that effort in a cabinet. And, she loves to think about those things. But if some of you have your father still alive, go tell him something. I talked about how I didn't talk to my father for a year. Thank God he didn't die. And I was able to tell him things. So Jeannie has a regret, but it doesn't mean that it's a negative. It means that she's honest. And her father is smiling down on her, believe me, today, knowing that. Good friend Jim, he says, my dad, who's next year, boys and girls, I made a mistake. I want everyone, when you do this, if we do this next year, send in your father's name. That was an oversight on my part, and I apologize. Jim's father, I know, was Angelo, but he had a nickname named Cuddy. No one knows why. One of the great mysteries of Torrington, but we will find out one day. But he said, my dad was always willing to help neighbors. I'm going to get into it. And he and his and neighbors and a friend, and he and his brothers are the same way. His father edified what we were talking about last week. Love your neighbor as yourself. Putty Boscarino had 4 kids of his own. He had a big house, and he had a big yard, and he had a job and a wife that he had responsibility to. But when we learned last week, love your neighbor as yourself, in other words, think of their challenges. This is what this guy did in spite of his own children. And he was there for baseball games and Sunday dinners. Not that he was an absentee dad, but he was doing masonry work for friends. He was probably shoveling snow with people. He was there for his neighbors as well as his own children. And his 4 sons today, wait till you hear the song at the end, his genetics are thriving in his sons. And his son Jim, who I was the best man at his wedding, that was an honor. You can't get any better than him. Trust me. Him and then that guy over there by the coffee pot, Stan, who's been a tremendous help to me in the last few months. So if you have good friends, folks, cherish them. So good thing there. Tommy T, all right, my buddy Tommy says, my father loved comedy. Great. He loved Jackie Gleason, the great one, Red Skelton. Everybody remembers Red Skelton. He loved late night radio or TV. He loved All in the Family, all of that kind of stuff. He said his father was a serious man, but he had a heavy light side. I love what he... See, this is what I was getting at. And if you know Tommy is serious, but he does have a light and a very funny part to his personality. So as we grow to learn your fathers, we get into the personality, which what everyone's doing, okay? And then we can actually see you, as we talked about with Emily. She said her father never gave up, and then Emily had to come back from challenges and never give up. Tommy goes on to say that his father taught him responsibility, no heroics. You don't have to swing from a tree. Remember we talked last week about you can help people does not mean running in front of a train by laying down one's life for another. He said no heroics, but to be responsible in all that you do, in all decisions that you make, through, just like what Scott said, through your words and your deeds and your actions. What he's talking about there is what Jesus says, make your yeses, yeses, and your no's, no's. And Tommy is very responsible. He's taken care of a younger brother for many years. He's always there. He's very good to his kids. He's a heck of a dad, too. But so true how much Tommy is very much like his father. And so this assignment was very good because we really get to know you guys. George by the door. You did this all by yourself? Huh? Alicia didn't help you? Good man. So George by the door says, my dad taught me cribbage, which is a card game. And from what I understand, you kind of put the cards, I guess, in combinations. You get points for that. All right. So he taught him cribbage. He taught him duck pin bowling. Okay. And he also taught him to dress well when you leave the house. Boom. I mean, and George looked really sharp today. Isn't that interesting, right? We do see a lack in respectable dressing sometimes. Not that you always have to wear a tuxedo, but these are the things I wanted to hear from people. And it shows how the father cared about his son, taught him to dress for success, and these are things you carry through life. Unfortunately, George's father passed away from Huntington's disease, which is a disease with the cells and nerves in your brain, and usually get diagnosed, right, George, when you're 30 or 40. And his father passed away way too young from Huntington's disease. And I know George and his brother Miles are involved in that cause. But what they carry from that is the good things that their father taught them, and playing games, being social with people. And he, too, has been very social with me over the last few months, and maybe I'll learn to play cribbage. It's 11:29. Let's get one more of these in here as we're moving along. We go over to Chris, who does No Commercial Potential on Thursday and the Country Show on Saturday morning. He says my dad took good care of me when I was a little kid, making me breakfast, all that kind of dad stuff. And he says he also gave him, when he was an adult, good financial advice, and he told him how to be financially responsible and gave him some financial assistance as he was coming up in the world. And Chris says in his life now as an adult, he tries, okay? And I love the word where he says tries. He tries to be a good spouse, a husband, a father to his kids. You know, we talk about that on the show. We all think that, we're not good enough, you know. We can't do anything. We're mobilized because we're not good enough. We're not special enough. But Chris says right here, and he says he tries So maybe sometimes he's not the best father, or maybe he's not the best husband, but he keeps coming back to the plate, right? Like baseball, right? He keeps coming back to the plate. Another swing. The reason why Babe Ruth had the most home runs, he had the most strikeouts. Why? Because he kept going to the plate. So Chris here really edified that. He also says about his dad that he had a great, great sense of humor. And Chris really does that. If you listen to his shows, he has a lot of little puns in there. And a great dad, a great husband. I know him on a personal level. Thank you for contributing, because I know you're very busy. Mr. Williams, it's a couple of minutes, 1 minute after 11:30. You want to hit the sponsors so we keep rolling along?
Absolutely. We want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of The Feel Good Show, coming at you right here from your local community radio station, WAPJ Torrington, 105.1 and 89.9 on your FM dial. Streaming worldwide at WAPJ.org. We want to thank our sponsors for allowing us to bring you the quality community radio programming that you're witnessing at this particular time. We also would like to invite you, if you have something that you want the community to know about, then don't hesitate to contact us here at WAPJ, especially on Thursdays for our local and live edition. And we'll be more than happy to help you get the word out. So with that being said, we thank you for tuning in. And at this time, we will turn the floor back to T-Boz for more words of wisdom and moments of meditation.
Thank you. And if anyone would like to sponsor, if you have a business, words of wisdom, moments of meditation, talk to John Ramsey, visit WAPJ.org. Okay, Brother Stephen down in the southern end of the state talks about his dad, which is my dad. But anyway, we'll say, my father taught me to love music. My father loved music. He would, I said this many times, would wake us up at night when Johnny Carson was on the air. It'd be 11:30 at night. My mother would say, Stevie, what are you doing with these kids? He said, I want them to see Gene Krupa. I want them to see Buddy Rich. I mean, the reason why my brothers and I had a band and we know a lot about music because my father taught it to us. Okay, and then he'd say, you have to go back to bed, and we'd be playing drums on the pillow. But anyway, he loved music, and he taught me perseverance, right? We talked about my brother with his after I moved out of Bridgeport, he kept on moving there with his real estate business. And he also said, and don't wait for things. You want things to happen, boys and girls, you got to go out and get them a little bit, okay? You know, I always say the Protestants have a great prayer. God can move mountains, but you got to bring a shovel. Okay, or the Catholics say God could get you to shore, but you got to row. All right. So, Brother Stephen says, don't wait for things and don't ask, and that has been very true with everybody in my present situation. I've had friends from dinner dates, coffee. I can't tell you. They don't call and say, Hey, Boz, would you like to go out for coffee? They say Friday we're taking you to Christie's. Okay, and that's what my father means by don't ask. Just be there. A lot of people, 9 years ago now, and I talk about this all the time, I hope I am the same kind of friend that my friends are to me. So don't ask. So if you have someone in need, don't ask if they want a cup of coffee, because then what you're saying is, I don't really feel like coming over there with the coffee. Just bring it to them. My friend Catherine down in Florida, now they're back in Connecticut, says her father had a gentle soul, and he took great pride in doing a job well done. And, Catherine, she does things very well. He said he liked to tinker with things, and he liked to fix things, and he always fixed things very creatively. And he had a few kids, and you got kids, and you got a house, and you got goldfish, as Conan O'Brien says. Being creative means fixing things without always running to the hardware store to spend money. So he's very creative, teaches people how to be resourceful. And then he says he would jump in when needed, even traditionally doing things that in those days when Catherine was a kid was women's work, okay? So he saw a need with his wife and the kids running around, and so if it meant doing a laundry or frying a fish or whatever it was, he didn't sit there and say, well, that's women's work. He got right in there. And consequently, he taught Catherine that a relationship is an opportunity for responsibility, okay? So if you're going to be in a relationship, a marriage, or even if you're a same-sex couple, it doesn't matter. You're in that thing to win it. You're both going to share the duties and the chores and the love, as we talked about, in that relationship. And then she says, too, that she does have a can-do spirit. She pitches in when she can, and she's visually impaired like myself. But you can't stop this woman. She's she's small, but she's like a tank. You know what I mean? Just plows through. And her husband, Bill, really appreciates all the help that she does, as she says, to keep the wheels turning at home. So great stuff there, Catherine. Sister-in-law Lynn says, my dad loves sports, and her father did. His name was Anthony. I know that loved sports. And the interesting thing is he bought a house up in Trumbull, and the yard was about an acre big. And when he got out of the car, the real estate agent said, well, look inside the house. He said, I don't have to look inside the house. He said, I want the house. The real estate agent said, why? He said, because I got 4 kids. They got a big yard here, okay? And so consequently, as Catherine says, his youngest son, Dino, really became a great football player for the town of Trumbull, for Trumbull High School. So Mr. Pontonio saw the yard, saw his love of sports, being outside, gave that gift to his children, and they ran around like a bunch of crazy people, I'm sure, back in the late 60s, early 70s. But then his love of sports got filtered down to his youngest son, and he was quite the center for Trumbull. So there again, Dad seeing something, giving it to his children, and, you know, loving sports, shared that with his son, and his younger son really loves sports today. And he's quite a cook, too, I understand. My younger brother, Jim, who is the vice president of marketing for the state of Connecticut up there at Oakdale, he has a memory similar to what Jim did, the other Jim did last year. And he said he would wait on the corner of Syracuse Street, where we lived in Long Island, and Willis Avenue, and he'd see my father come down the street in that 65 Impala. It was blue, 4-door. It was nice, with the 383 Chevy in it. And you see my father, and my father would stop and smile at my brother. My brother was maybe, 7, 8 years old. And he said to my brother, go. And so my brother would start pedaling his bike, and my father would roll down the street. He'd probably get arrested today for doing this. And my brother would be looking at my father, be smiling, and then my father would slow the car down, and my brother would win. He'd get to the house. Yay, he won. He beat Dad, and my father would pull in and smile. My brother said, but what he learned from that is that it's okay to let someone else finish first. Sometimes in life, boys and girls, we're too busy trying to be number one. And what we learned last week is maybe our job is not to be number one, but to help someone else finish first and get joy, as he says, in seeing someone else win. And he recalled that memory of my father every time we kind of talk about Father's Day. So a great memory there from Brother Jim. Susan, my Goomba, she said that her father taught her never to be envious, because you don't know what's going on in someone else's life or in someone else's house. He taught her always to work through things with kindness, okay, and gentleness, and be kind to people. And he said this, and my siblings are going to roll when they hear this. His mantra, she said, was, if you're in a tough situation, kill them with kindness. That's the only person I ever heard say that. Kill them with kindness, he would say. My father said the same thing. And it's not easy, okay? And I can be the poster child right now for not easy. But what I've learned is this is scripturally based when it says kill them with kindness, because what really her father, Mr. Leo, was really talking about is what we learned in James the other couple of weeks ago about bad wisdom and good wisdom. And bad wisdom is enviousness and jealousy and rage and all of that. And the wisdom we get from heaven is pure, and it's impartial, and it's forgiving, and it's understanding, it's compassionate. So great stuff there from the late Mr. Leo. Julia, the aquatic therapist, this packs a punch. Her father taught her the power of the mind. He was a doctor. The power of the mind, the grace of the heart. Wow. Is it really that's what all of you are saying? I mean, I think Julia's dad kind of summed up halfway through the show here. The power of the mind. Your fathers have given you things you can think about and impact and help other people, like Jim said. My brother Jim said about the bike. My twin brother about don't ask, Lynn's father, getting into the yard. Scott saying about honor the family, right? So the power of the mind. St. Paul tells us, look skyward, don't look down. Set your mind on higher things, and the grace of the heart. So great stuff there by Julia. Diana, new listener out in Unionville, she says this: my dad loved the ocean. My father loved the ocean too. He loved to fish. He loved to golf. Okay. He loved the sound of crickets chirping at night, and it is kind of nice. He loved dark chocolate And she has a sweet tooth. She likes her sweets too. So there we go, drawing the dots there. He liked a nice, quiet, relaxing day on the porch, savored the peaceful life, but he also taught his daughter determination. And I know this woman, and she is very determined. One of our best square dance students, by the way. Determination. Isn't that what we all need? And to live in the present time. Bing, bang, boom. Too many of us are looking, myself included, what about, the next thing, what about, oy vey, what am I going to do? You know what my therapist said? Participate, don't anticipate, because when you anticipate, guess what? You just took the wheel out of Jesus' hand. You're not doing what Carrie Underwood says. Jesus, take the wheel. Participate, don't anticipate. So her father is right on there. In other words, enjoy the present moment. Don't worry. It says in Scripture, don't worry about tomorrow, about where your clothes and your food will come from. All right? So live in the present moment. So great advice there, because as we get older, most of us are older, we get a little mashugana now, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Worry about our grandkids or our kids and all of that. But live in the present moment. Enjoy where you are. Alicia, the other half of George by the Door and the host of Alternative Anthems on Saturday morning, she says, my dad taught me unconditional love. He just turned 85, so I'm very fortunate and blessed to still have him in my life, so I can, and she didn't write this, but I know she can hug him because she's Italian, all right? So she can hug him, she can kiss him, she can make him a meatball grinder. But unconditional love, and this woman, right, George, has displayed this to me, and I even heard her family. And again, I think what Alicia's saying is what all the dads are saying here, unconditional love. We said with our opening scripture quote with Cain, the Israelites messed up, but God didn't meet them with condemnation. As I said earlier, he met them with love. So great stuff there from Alicia. Keith, my buddy Keith, down in Hamden over there, where they used to have the cars in the parking lot. Remember that sticking up over there? You see Cadillacs and Chevys. Unfortunately, they got rid of those. But anyway, Keith down in Hamden says, my father, now watch this, boys and girls. My father loves to go fishing, good, and camping, great. He has a camper on a lake in Woonsocket, Connecticut, I believe. Yep. He has been enjoying this for 53 years. His father is 89 years old. Boom. And his father is very much into the family when we do our Christmas show. Keith always pointed out. But what I like about this, and he's still doing all this stuff with the camper. God bless him, Keith says. What I like about this is even though Mr. Hodder loves to have the family around him, Mr. Hodder is Mr. Hodder. In other words, before we all became dad, we were people that enjoyed hobbies and interests and things. And so this man makes a lot of time for family when they put up their Christmas family tree. I know the story there. It's like a NASCAR routine. But he also enjoys being himself. He also enjoys his camper. That's okay. You shouldn't feel guilty if you're a dad, or you should to think that you might enjoy relaxing with the fishing pole or going to play golf or taking a walk. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be you. Like we said about Jim's father, he helped other people, but Jim said last year, but his father was there every day at 3 o'clock to watch Jim hit a home run, right? So it's okay to be you. It doesn't mean that you're giving up on your kids because you like to do something. And that's what the purpose of this assignment. To better know you guys in the class and those of you at home, you got to know the guy that started it all, right? Like I said about my friend Tommy T. He is an exact replica of his father. Serious, but boy, he has a silly side, okay? So now we come to the last story, which I saved this for the last, and I apologize if I moved through a little bit, but I want to get to Thankful Charlie. Thankful Charlie says that his father loved to go saltwater fishing. And Charlie would go with him, but Charlie was little, and Charlie would get bored and he would fall asleep. And he didn't understand why his father enjoyed that kind of fishing. When Charlie got older, he became interested in freshwater fishing over in the Farmington River. And Charlie and his late daughter, Amanda, yes, I say late daughter, Amanda, would go fishing. And he found that his daughter really enjoyed fishing. She enjoyed the quiet solitude. She enjoyed the peacefulness. She enjoyed fishing, but most importantly, she enjoyed the conversations she had with her father, Charlie. And as Charlie looks back, he says, I didn't appreciate so much going fishing with my father. I was too young. And here's his exact words about his late daughter. He says, but I sure do realize what a wonderful gift it was to have gone fishing and have those long conversations with my daughter before she passed away. Father's Day isn't easy for Thankful Charlie. But to those of you who know Thankful Charlie, there isn't a mean bone in his body. Why? Because he loves God. And though this is a very hard thing for him, he doesn't run from the cross, he ran to it. And so he puts a value on what is valuable. The time that he spent with his daughter. He's not talking about how big a fish they caught. He's talking about the big conversations they had. And not knowing that it wouldn't last forever. Boys and girls, these were amazing, and wait till you hear the takeaway, amazing insights to your fathers. And I think Charlie, like all of you would agree, really sums up all of yours in his story of appreciation. His daughter would be the same age that my daughter is. It's no accident that I started with Emily and ended with Charlie. Charlie and I are very good friends. I'm usually good with words, but I get a little choked up when I think of Thankful Charlie's story. But there was the lineage, his father, the fishing. It wasn't the fishing. It was the fact that they could be together. And so let that sit with all of you for a while today as you go through. And if you have your kids, and if you haven't spoken to your kids in a while for some stupid reason, you're the parent, call them. We say sometimes to the oldest kid in the family, set the example for your younger brothers. Baloney. You know who set the example in our house here? Me. So set the example. Call your kid. Hug your kid, like Alicia said. Okay? Her father's still alive. Keith's father's still alive, right? Think of Thankful Charlie when you're saying, I haven't spoken to my father in a couple of years for God knows what reason. Let's get to the takeaway. This is by Dave Atwell. He's the host of Comedy Central. A lot of you know that. This, I think, may win Takeaway of the Year. I'm not sure, but here we go. It says, when you're a kid, when you're young, you think your father is Superman. But when you get older, you realize that he's just a regular guy with a cape. Boom. What is that cape? It's Emily saying, my father taught me not to quit. It's Scott saying honor. It's Jeannie saying, I wish I hugged and told my father about Normandy. It's Carol from Fairfield saying, my father taught me honesty. And that's a big one. Jim, father helping people. And Stephen's father saying, don't ask. It's Tommy saying about his father and teaching him responsibility. George, dress nice, enjoy things like cribbage and duck pin bowling. Okay, that's what the cape is. It's Chris, the financial advice. It's brother Jimmy with the bicycle race. It's Sister Lynn with the big backyard. It's Diana with determination. It's Keith with the camping. It's Alicia with unconditional love. It's Susan with killing with kindness. That's what the cape is. That's what the cape is. When I was a kid, I thought my father was Superman. When I got older, I realized he was a regular guy with a cape. My father's deceased, but I tell you, he gave us a great life in Long Island. I'll leave it at that. So, great song following this very special show. I want to thank you all for contributing. I know everyone is busy this time of year. You guys did a great job. I will be here next week for a very special show, and then there'll be some off time. I'll tell you about that next week. So, Jock, you want to lower the needle on the vinyl and play the song. Everyone, say hi and happy Father's Day. Buona festa di padre, they say in Italian. Say happy Father's Day, whether he's in heaven or with you. And Jock, play the song and be yourself, boys and girls, because everyone else is taken.